From the station that made country music famous, 650 AM WSM, this is a Coffee, Country, and Cody podcast. Hey, it's Charlie Matos, and in this episode, we sit down with Clay Walker. Clay would Zoom with us from his home in Santa Fe, Tennessee, and a lot to talk about. New album, Texas to Tennessee, an appearance on the Tuesday Night Opry, some great Opry memories, some great Roger Miller stories. You'll really enjoy our Coffee, Country, and Cody podcast with Clay Walker.
I don't know. What do you want to do? I said, well, we're going to go over to Clay's and see if he's home. And we knocked, and I knew he was in there. He just wouldn't let us in. So he said, how about zooming in with us from the Magnolia Lobby studio at Opryland Resort and Convention Center this morning? Clay Walker, it is good to see you, and even better to know that you're headed to the Grand Ole Opry stage here in just a few hours, Hoss.
Oh, good morning, Bill, Cody. Yes, and it was a chilly morning. It was nice. I stepped out there with my cup of coffee and enjoyed that nice little cool breeze. We just got back from Galveston, Texas, so I enjoyed a little coolness from it. It was great.
Don't you have a place in Galveston?
I do. We have a place there on the beach, and unfortunately, the wind blew 30 miles an hour for 3 weeks straight. Never got to go in the water or anything, but. No, I did get to go to the chocolate store for my wife. She likes chocolate, so that worked out. I was able to run an errand and feel useful. But I'm back in Tennessee now and ready to cut some firewood. I don't know if you see me on TikTok, but I do that a lot.
You're a lumberjack.
Yeah. I even got the beard to go with it,
For those who've never been to Galveston, that Opera House in Galveston is one of the most beautiful venues I've ever been to,
I drive by it all the time. It's not so pretty on the outside. It's got a bunch of stuff on the outside of it, but I've never been inside, so I'll take your word for it.
Okay.
Is it as pretty as the Opry where I'm going to be tonight?
It's a triple. It's kind of like the Ryman, but it's a triple decker. So it's gorgeous on the inside. It really is beautiful.
Careful now. Yeah. Careful now. You're talking sacrilege.
Okay.
Talking Opry.
So do you ever pull into Galveston and pass the city limit sign that you don't hear Glenn Campbell in your ear singing Galveston, oh Galveston?
Man, what a song, man. What a beautiful song. What a great artist. My manager, TK Campbell, and I were talking about Roger Miller this morning. I never got to meet Roger, but TK knew him pretty good. And tonight, the piano player at the Opry where I'm performing played piano for Roger Miller, and he has all those great stories. He was his piano player, road manager / servant. All of it, it's those guys have the best stories, so I'm looking forward to some of that. But Glenn Campbell was managed also by TK Campbell, and so we've talked a lot about Glenn and his greatness, and it's missed. So many great artists have come through the Opry and Nashville, and Glenn was really funny. And one of the stories that I heard about Glenn Campbell was that he was a great guitar player. He played for the Beach Boys, and he was a session player too out in L.A. And he came to Nashville to play on some sessions. And he walked in the room, and all these big Nashville guys. It's pretty cliquish here, we can say that.
Absolutely,
we can be honest on when we're doing interviews. But Glenn walked in the room, and he goes, "Golly," he goes, "You boys have more talent in your whole body than I do in my little finger." Glenn was funny,
Oh yeah.
There's Roger. My favorite story. I'll let you get on with what we're doing here.
No,
that's what we're doing. But that Glenn Miller told, and I heard Glenn Campbell repeat this joke to me in front of Clint Eastwood out in Pebble Beach at a golf tournament, and he did it in close quarters, And Glenn said he was telling the joke as Roger told it, because I'd never met Roger Miller. But Roger Miller said he was walking down 16th Street in Nashville, and this little dog runs up to him and starts humping his boot. And he tries to kick him off. And the little dog won't get off. The little dog's holding on, and the little dog looks at him and goes, "Arr!" And he goes, "Well, hurry up then." I mean, that kind of stuff. I'm crying like a good.
Goodness. Clay Walker, if you just joined us on his way to the stage of the Grand Ole Opry, I remember those days, the old Warner label shows we did to celebrate WSM. And I was telling Charlie earlier this morning and seeing you perform on that stage in that setting. When would have been the first time you would have played the Opry, Clay?
Man, I don't even know. I've played it a bunch of times, but I remember, not the date, but I remember the first time I ever played it was at the Ryman, and I stood, on that piece of wood, where Hank stood and all these guys, and it was just, whoa, give you chill bumps. And, knowing that the great ones have been there, and it's I think it's like that for every artist. It humbles you. It lets you know, hey, you're not that big. Been a lot of people bigger than you in there,
I was thinking about Merle Haggard, seeing him at the Ryman. He started his tour one year at the Ryman, and about halfway through the show, he finished a song and he just paused, and he kind of looked around like he was lost a little bit. And
maybe he was.
He stepped up to the microphone a little closer, and he said, "The next time I plan a tour, somebody remind me not to start in the Ryman Auditorium with the ghost of Hank Williams breathing down my neck."
The Holy Grail.
It was just like all of a sudden it hit him, It was something happened that just made him feel the uniqueness of that place and the heritage. Yeah, absolutely.
He loved the Opry. I met Haggard one time, and he told me an Opry story that I won't repeat. But it was he loved the Opry like none other. And, he loved Johnny Cash, and he was unabashed about it. He was just talking, he goes, man, because he did the Opry with Cash one time and Roger Miller. There's another Roger Miller. That's why I can't tell the story. but he said that, he goes, man, when Cash walked in a room, he goes, he literally was bigger than Elvis. He said, in every way. And I said, bigger than Elvis Presley? He goes, yeah. He goes, he sucked the air out of the room when he walked in it. That's pretty good. And I never met Cash either. But I did meet Haggard, and yeah, I'm sure he did. He's the greatest singer, I think, greatest country music singer, at least, of all time. And just because of the control of his voice, the timbre of it, the texture, he could do all kind of acrobats with it, but he didn't. He didn't have to do it. He did not. He never oversang. And yeah, you hear a lot of singers when you hear them do it, it's mostly out of immaturity or insecurity. Haggard didn't have any of that. He was just so good. And when you see people like George Strait, cite Haggard as his favorite or whatever, it's real. Singers know. Even if we're not great singers know who is great, and Haggard will always be, to me, the greatest one.
Who was that artist for you as a kid growing up? Who was it? If you just had to pick one that you said, hey, that's my man.
Earl Thomas Conley.
Wow.
Great
choice, by the way.
I wanted to emulate, George Strait when I got older, but, when I was a kid, I was my dad's kind of country music, which I love now, was strictly crying in your beer, music. And as a kid, growing up with an alcoholic, that's pretty damn hard, just waking up every morning listening to cheating songs and drinking songs. So, I kind of liked the more romantic stuff. And when Earl Thomas Conley came along, Holding Her, Loving You, I think I was 12, I learned how to sing it. And, my dad always had my back, which was great. And so he taught me the guitar and taught me how to sing. And we were in a bar one time when I was 12, and there was a guitar there. So I picked it up and I started singing Holding Her, Loving You. And some guy yelled out, "There's only one thing wrong with that." My dad's a pretty big old boy. And he turned around and he says, "Yeah, fella, what's that?" And I was like, "Oh, it's fixing to go down." And the guy said, "I can't do it." And, so Earl Thomas, he's the one that hooked me, hook, line, and sinker into country music. And I met him at the YMBL rodeo in Beaumont, Texas, by his tour bus. And he was so nice, so kind to me. I was 15 years old. And I told him, that I loved his music and that I wanted to make it. And he looked me dead in the eyes and he said, "How bad do you want to make it?" I said, "More than anything." He says, "Then you'll make it." It was that simple, And then when he died, of course, a couple of years ago, it just really saddened me. But anyway, you asked me, if I had to cite an artist, that's the guy. And then when Keith Whitley came along, I was like, oh my God. I mean, like I got to flip a coin between Haggard and Whitley, on whose voice I liked the most. I mean, Haggard was a better technical singer, but when he listened to Whitley's voice, I can't choose,
That's the voice of Clay Walker as he joins us, zooming in from his home, Santa Fe, Tennessee. Oh,
That's right.
What's happening down there on the ranch? What are we doing these days?
We're in Murray County down here in Santa Fe, Tennessee. Well, I found this place. I was going through a divorce, and I was living in Keith Stegall's basement. And so he said, I said, man, is there any land around here? He goes, man, I think Murray County is going to get hot, and so I looked down here and found some property, and we, my wife Jessica and I bought some property out here, and we've had a great time raising our kids out here. We live in the holler, as they say, and we flattened out the holler a little bit, built a house down here, and it's shit, man. I'm not kidding you. Every day I wake up, look down that holler at the sun, and then every evening I walk to the other side of the porch and get my glass of wine and watch the sun go down. So it's a pretty good life, Bill,
And once in a while he gets a call to come play the Grand Ole Opry, which he will do in a few hours. Clay Walker, I want to take you back. The last time I think you zoomed in here was October, and I had chosen from Texas to Tennessee, your album. I had chosen, it was a toss-up. But for my Bill Cody pick of the week, that week, I chose I Just Want to Hold You. Is a song I chose. But it was a toss-up between that and the song we're going to close with and the video that people are going to see of a thing called Catching Up with an Old Memory. So that's where we wrap up. Give us a backstory on this song we're going to see and hear.
And, I'll cite Whitley. He had an old song called Just Between an Old Memory and Me. And so that's where I pulled the title from, in my head. Mm-hmm. I wrote it with Jaron Boy, George Burge, and so it was just a great song. It was during COVID, and it's just one of those ones that takes you back. And I remember Ronnie Millsap had an old song called "Lost in the '50s" or whatever it was.
Lost in the '50s tonight. Yeah,
and it just had a nostalgic feel to it, and I think this song has some of that to it. It's got a special thing, and this is one of my. You just named my two favorite songs. This one and. I Just Want to Hold You. So, man, you're right on par with where I want you to be. I didn't pay you.
When I go on vacation, you can do the pick of the week that way. It'll be the Clay Walker pick of the week. How's that?
Hey, Bill, I just want to know, if you had a vote, would you vote for me to be a member of the Grand Ole Opry? Because I don't think I have any votes in that category.
How do you know I already haven't?
Well.
dot.
Something else too. One of you put a quarter in the offering.
Charlie Manos, run that lineup tonight with Clay Walker. You'll be hosting tonight at the Opry.
Yep, we're going to kick it off at 7 o'clock with Connie Smith. Rhonda Vincent will be there with The Rage, Riders in the Sky, Terry Clark, Killer Bees, who's a funny man, Clay Walker, and Kelsey Ballerini, all on the Tuesday Night Opry.
Old friend, thanks for coming to see me this morning. We'll see you on the stage of the Opry tonight.
Thank you, Wild Bill. Love you, man.
Love you too, buddy.
Like to come in here long, turn it on every once in a while. Stir up something strong, get gone, let the past come alive. I ain't hiding or lying or trying to drown any pain.
Thanks for listening to our Coffee, Country, and Cody podcast. Our program director at WSM Radio is J. Patrick Tittle. Our digital producer is Haley Hall. Marketing and promotions director is Amanda Cannon. And I'm Charlie Manos. If you like what you've heard, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. And leave us a review on iTunes. It really does help new people find the show.